G'day everyone, popping in for our usual Friday chat here. Looking forward to having a chat with you, going through a few news articles and obviously some times for questions and stuff. This is just going to be a little bit of a pre-show, so I will put down in the description down below a timeline of everything I discussed today. So if you did want to skip to certain topics, you can look at those now. Just going basically to see who's here. So let me come into the live chat and let's see who's actually on board. Oh, look, David Oster's up the top there. Jay Hakes is here. Michael's here. G'day, Michael. I think that's Mexican, is it, or Spanish? Not sure. Richard, g'day, Richard. How you going? Good to see you here as well. Like I said, I'm going to give this a couple of minutes just to get everyone on board before we actually start for the day. Greetings, everyone. I've finally made the Thursday night of my Liberation and YouTube on the big screen. Oh, that's fantastic. Good to see you here, mate. That's fantastic. I love it when new people can get in. Dominic's here. David, I'm my go-to guy. Thanks, Michael. Really appreciate it. Another bit of a cool day. What is it today? We've got 16 degrees, I think, is the top temperature today, Celsius. So it's no beer o'clock for me again. I'm actually drinking I think it's a lemonade. I'm going to go for this Kirk's lemonade. I can't wait for it to get warmer again so I can crack a stubby with you guys. Honestly, I'm missing it. Jeffrey's here. New ski on, I think 89. This is cool. Thanks for joining us. Robert's here as well. Chris, hi David. It's Corona Day here in California. Yeah, I know. Lucky it is Corona Day for you guys. You'll be nice and warm. Look, it's a beautiful day here today. I mean, it's just that it's cool. Like I said, it's 16 Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's not too bad. Andrew's here as well. Just got my Tamron back from my friend and it works great. Oh, so you got a good copy, Michael. That's fantastic. I'm going to talk about the Tamron review a little bit later on in the news stories as well. So I'm looking forward to discussing that with you guys as well. Brett's here. Tony Pierce is here. Altrix here as well. So we're starting to get stacks now on board. Sam's here. Hi, David. My Tamron 28 to 75 arrived today. Woohoo! How's your version, Sam? Have you had a chance to check it out yet? I'd love to know how your focus is with that camera. I think you might find now that the newer ones that ship out now are probably going to be okay because I would think that Tamron have probably fixed those ones that have come out. But it's going to be interesting to see whether anyone new coming in now buying them is going to have that issue. So I'm dying to see if it's been solved. I'm definitely thinking about getting that lens though to add to my video arsenal particularly. Altrix just said laugh out loud. I'm going to have a drink. Now while we're in the pre-show, I thought I might discuss something with you that I'm going to try in this probably next week with Kiara, actually. It's 60 degrees Fahrenheit, is it? Yeah, well, that's the temperature today. Thanks, Terry. So that's what I'm struggling with today, guys. Horrible winter. Although the Europeans will be saying that's not winter. But it's all relative, isn't it? You still feel the cold when you're not used to it. Yeah, so what I'm thinking about doing, because I haven't done a test of this yet, I'm actually thinking about trying out the A7 III or the A9 and using it in 35mm mode because this is the 18 to 105. So I really want to try and see how the video performs. The funny thing is I love this lens and I've never really used it much on full frame. I've always used it on my A6-500 or the A6-300. So I thought that what I would do is give this a go this week to try and do some filming with it. Look, I'm not going to do stills, I don't think, because remember, on this size camera, if you had an A7R III, you could do it because then you're still going to get probably an 18 megapixel file. You get about 11, I think, or 12, which is not bad. I used to shoot with the D3S and that used to be 12 megapixel and it was fine. So I may give it a go, I'm not sure. But I thought I'd like to try this for video just to see how the quality compares. As you know, lately, I've just been shooting with the 55mm, mostly with my video. And I've been shooting basically wide open. So I thought I might give this a go to see how it goes on f4. And also I can put it on a gimbal to see how this actually balances on my Moza Air gimbal. I might show you something. Remind me in the chat later, guys, to show you something that Moza Aircross have just released, because I got an email this morning and I'll take you through it. It looks amazing. But I thought I might try this. I mean, some of the good things about this lens, obviously, it is a true video lens because you do have the zoom rocker, and I think that will probably work on my Aircross with the cable plugged in. I think the zoom will actually go from that, and it would work with the crane as well. So I'm thinking about giving this a go. So let me know if that's something you'd be interested to see, how these APS-C lenses work in video on the A7 III or the A9. And I also might use as well this lens, which is the 10-18, because I thought that might be really good to try as well. And the other lens, because I love this lens, like if I'm trying to get something that's really nice and wide open, I can use this to get some environmental type shots as well on the gimbal on APS-C mode as well, super 35mm mode. I thought it might be really interesting to try. The other lens that I can also try is the 24 1.8, which I adore because that gives me that 35mm focal length. I've got that though on this is what's shooting me now though, so I can't show you that, but this is going to be an interesting one that I can also try for doing that as well, because I'm just curious to see how these newer cameras work with APS-C mode. I haven't even tested it yet, so I really am interested to see how that goes. And I think I might do that Thursday with Kiara. I'm going to go to a beautiful location down the coast with beautiful waterfalls again. It's a different waterfall that I went to last time with Kiara, but I'm thinking about doing that, doing a day trip on Thursday. So yeah, let me know if you think that might be interesting to see how APS-C goes on the full frame. So that could be something really interesting as well. Anyway, we're going to start in a minute. Don't forget, guys, if you're in the chat, make sure if you can put the @David Oastler, because it will mean that I won't miss what you're trying to say, because I can miss it sometimes if you don't put that. That just brings it to my attention. So just make sure you do that. And I'm going to go back through all of these questions in question time at the end of the thing. So how long have I been going? 7 minutes 20. I forgot to put the timer on again. I'm hopeless, honestly. Let me just make this to 8 minutes, and then I'll just add 8 minutes. So we're going to start in a minute. I'll give it another, 30 seconds, and then we'll start. Please, guys, if you can, give me a thumbs up, because it just means more people pop on. Because I'd love you to do that. We've got over 50 now watching, so I'd love you to do that for me if you can. It just makes sure other people know I'm live. So that would be another fantastic thing. How long have we got? 47, so I might start the timer now. So what have we got? 4 or 5 seconds. So I'll put it on now, that'll do. And I'll just say add 8 minutes on here. Plus 8. Another thing too, if we can, I am doing a workshop here in Melbourne. If you are from Australia or Melbourne, or even if you want to come from elsewhere, we are going to do a workshop, and it's planned for, let me just bring up my page, because I'd love to show you this to see if we can get some people. I'm going to start plugging this as well. Let me just go to my site. I'll just switch over so you can see what I'm doing. It's the images.com. So I am doing this workshop. It's going to be done here in Melbourne. We're still thinking about when we're going to actually do the location. That's still got to be decided. But it's actually going to be, let me see if I can find where it is. It's here. So it's actually going to be, I think it was the end of August. It's going to be on, the date is actually here, which is August the 18th, and it's going to run for around 4 hours. It may go a bit longer than that, but I'm just sort of putting that time down. It's going to be just in the CBD. It's $200, and we're going to have 10 in the group. Like I said, it's now on sale, so if you did want to go to oastlerimages.com, you can purchase tickets to this as well. Obviously, I'll be there, Kiara's going to be there, Kiri's going to be there, there'll be others that'll be there as well. We're going to have a ball shooting around Melbourne, and we're going to cover things like flash, continuous lighting, gear essentials, remote triggers, light stands, all these other things, setting up your gear, TTL and manual focus, flash or when would you use flash or continuous light, and also posing and stuff like that. So if you are interested, I'd love to see you join us, guys, and I think $200 is quite reasonable. And to be honest, I'm going to give Kiara half of everything that I'm charging here. So Kiara basically is going to get half of the money that I earn. And now I think that's a nice thing to do because she's worked really hard, and I just want to reward her. I want to reward her as well. So I'm going to give her half of everything that I earn on that day. So it's not like all the money is going to go to me. Kiara also is going to get half of the funds too that are in there. So please join us for that. I'd love to see you there. Obviously, even the people that just did the workshop with me, come and join us for that because this will be much more detailed. Anyway, that's all I wanted to discuss for that. But you can get that, and I'll stick that in the link down below, so you can get that if you wanted to get the direct link. But obviously, it is under oslerimages.com if you wanted to join us there. All right, so let's get started on today's news because we've got some interesting things to actually show you. So let me just go over to here. The first story that we're going to look at today, and what time are we on? 3:10. All right, so the first news story is that Sony, and don't forget, keep firing away the questions, guys, because I will come back. Sony have patented a new mount. And the interesting thing about this is, I know the A9 mount is probably the strongest mount that Sony have got. I think it's still a stronger mount than what they've put on the A7 III or the A7R, because they are basically saying that you'll need those long sports lenses for the new mounts that are coming out. Now, what they're saying here is that they believe this mount will probably be so that you can put the 400mm f2.8 in the room at 500 and 600mm f4 lenses. And they're saying that I guess the future Sony A9 II is a hot candidate for this updated mount system. And you can read all about this. I mean, I'm not going to go through everything on this, but clearly they're making the mount reinforced and stronger. But it's an interesting thing that they are obviously updating their mounts for new lenses later on, because you do keep hearing from some people out there, the Sony haters, saying the mount's not that strong. I think the Sony A9 mount is fairly strong, but there's a new mount going to be coming out anyway. And like I said, these rumours are saying that it's going to be with the A99 too. So that could be really interesting anyway. So you can read all about that in here. And obviously it's probably going to be compatible with the old mount, so you would be able to use the other lenses, obviously. It's just that it is going to be a stronger mount for these bigger lenses that are going to be coming out in the future. So I just wanted to mention that to you. So that's only a short one. Next one is 5 minutes. So the next story I wanted to go through is this Samyang announcement. Well, it's not an announcement, but they actually have announced for Canon, though, that there's going to be an 85 1.4 lens. And you can see it here. It's really quite a nice design. It's going to be interesting to see what this is like. And I'll show you the lens comparison differences of how these will look. So it is really tiny, actually. It's even smaller than the GM version 1.4, and you can see the size difference compared to the Sigma over here. But the Samyang is lightweight and compact and weighs only 485 grams. This could be a great one for sticking on a gimbal. So I'm really hoping that this lens comes out on Sony. Also, I really do hope that it obviously is a quiet lens, though, because then you could use it for video. But even for stills, it looks like this might be a great lens if you wanted to go down the Samyang route. Either way, I'm almost positive this probably will come out for Sony. I can't see why Samyang wouldn't release this for Sony. Let me know whether any of you would be interested in this sort of a lens, though. And it certainly looks, like I said, it certainly looks nice if you look at the size comparison there between the GM and the Sigma, which looks massive against that. I mean, let's be fair though too, for some reason they've put the lens cap on that, which makes it look worse. I don't know why they do that. Like, if you're going to be fair, take the lens cap off the Sigma and then it wouldn't look anywhere near as big as what it does at the moment. So let's be fair about that. You're talking a difference of just, of this much as compared to putting the lens hood on one. I don't know why they've done that. Yeah, it seems a bit silly. But it is a really nice small lens. Like I said to you before, I've used the 85 Sigma. I used that when I was shooting Nikon, and that was an amazing lens, dead sharp, and I really liked it. So I'm still waiting. I am hoping to get a contact here that I can try these Sigma lenses as they're released, because I'm just waiting on him coming back. He's overseas actually at the moment. He's meant to be coming back later this month, and hopefully I'll be able to get some Sigma lenses and do reviews for you guys. So that's what I'm really hoping I can do in the coming weeks. Like I said, I'd love to try the 135. I'd love to try even the 85, might be interesting, but I'd love to also try the 105, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. But does this lens interest you? Would you be interested in doing something like this? They're saying it will cost $800 US if you're looking at the price. So again, it's a fantastic price. And I am hoping, to be honest, that the more of these lenses that get released, and if they are really good, like the Tamron is really good for what you're paying for that lens, that eventually, and even the Sigma lenses, eventually it may force pressure on Sony to push their lenses down. That's what I'm really hoping happens here, that the prices of the Sony lenses may eventually come down, the GM lenses, all their lenses I'm hoping. So that's clearly what I'm hoping happens for all of us in the future. But the more of these options that we have, clearly the better off we'll be. And there's probably no reason why this Samyang, who are now really designing nice lenses, can't produce a really good lens at this focal length. So I'm really interested in seeing this and quite excited about it too. So I'm really hoping it happens. You'd obviously be able to use this if you have the MC11 adapter. So if you did want to get that lens and put the adapter on, but then again, you're talking now it becomes bigger and you're having to deal with an adapter. And as we know, the adapters don't tend to give you as good autofocus with video as the native lenses do, and that's clearly been seen already by the Sigma lenses that have come out. They seem to be, from the early reviews, focusing better than what the adapted lenses do. So anyway, let's see what happens with that in the future, but it's just exciting. Again, we're getting more lenses in the Sony marketplace, and that has to be a really great thing. Really exciting. I just wish that they'd made a fairer comparison with that pick and not put the lens cap just on one of them. So let's go to the next story. What are we at? 9:22. So next story is the Voigtlander, and this is an interesting lens too. I love the Sigma one, these little Sony 30mm APS-C lens. That's what I've been using all the time. And I love it because it's so tiny and it gives me the type of work for doing wedding rings and things like that, which really, for me personally, is the only macro that I tend to do, is shooting the bride's flowers and details and wedding rings and things like that. So the 30mm works great for me, and that's a 33.5 APS-C lens. But if you were dealing with shooting your normal macro, which is shooting things like insects and flowers and things like this, it really would be great to have this macro, which is 110mm. Now, having this only manual focus does not bother me one little bit, because to be honest, I rarely use autofocus when I'm dealing with macro work anyway. I nearly always do manual focus. So having a manual focus macro lens is not an issue at all. And again, like when I use the Voigtlander with the Panasonics, and I've used Voigtlanders before with Nikon, I love the lenses. I think they're just beautiful. The manual focus ring is just gorgeous on these lenses. The build quality is always amazing. So this might be a great lens if you are after a macro. The other interesting one, though, I would look at too is probably the Samyang 70mm one as well. That could be a really great lens as well. Depending on if you wanted to be a little bit further away, you'd go for, say, the 110. The 70mm macro interests me as well, and I think that may be one in the future that I may be interested in getting, because that's, again, not too big, and I think being a Sigma lens, it would be a really nice lens. So that could be two that you could look at. So you've got the Sigma 70 coming out, and you've also got this Voigtlander as well, which is coming out. It is a 1:1 macro. I think it went from goes from f2, I think, or was it f2.8 to f22, I think it was. But it seems like it's really nice. And again, it's got a minimum focusing distance of 35 centimeters. That'd be a lovely macro lens. It would be a beautiful macro lens if you're interested in getting something like that as well. Okay, so next story. What are we on? 11. I'll just put it 12 minutes. So the next story is this, that the 3 Sigma FE lenses are now in stock and shipping. In stock and 5 shipping. You've got the 105 Bokeh Master to start shipping out in September. That's the one that I'm particularly interested in. The 135 I'm also interested in. I'm just going to have a drink. Cheers, guys. Even though it's not a beer, but... So at the moment, they've got the Sigma 35 is shipping, the Sigma 85 is also shipping, and the Sigma 50 1.4 is also shipping out now. And I looked down here, though, and I saw this picture, and I thought, oh, boy. Oh, this lens is just nuts. This 105mm lens seriously looks just crazy. I mean, looking at this, is this something that a lot of you say, well, I'd be interested in, or is it something that you'd say there's no way I'm going to lug this lens around? To be honest with you, I really am interested in trying this lens just to see what it's like. And I'm not sure whether I buy it, but I'll base that when I actually review it. It may be something that I could just carry in my bag and grab out occasionally to get an image with difference. And that's the thing that I'm always interested in. I'd sort of have to see, though, what difference you're getting between the 135 and this lens. So it'd be great if I could get the 135 and this 105mm lens and test them both together and take the same image. And that's why I'm hoping I can get off these contacts I'm trying to get. That's why I'm hoping that I can get both of those lenses and do a side comparison and show you the same image shot basically wide open to see what we get. And that would be a really interesting test to see how both of these lenses compare. And that would probably make my mind about which one of those I may purchase. So I'm really interested in doing that. But again, I just laughed when I saw the image about how big this actually looks. You'd certainly want to hold this lens by the lens, not the camera body. As we were just talking about the mount, it looks like it's going to be really heavy and bulky. But, you know, I'm really interested in trying it out. I really am. And I'm not sure, does it say... Oh, excuse me. Does it say how much they are? No, I don't think it's saying costing yet. No, it's not saying. Someone in the chat may be able to let me know, but, you know, I am dying to try it. I'm really dying to try that lens because it's something that really does interest me. So that's that one. Keep firing your questions away too, guys, because I will come back to that. Let's go to the next question, or next story, which is 1440. Next story is this. The Zeiss 40mm and Sony camera to be announced this summer. So they are saying that this is an SR5, so it looks like it's probably almost certain. Just put in the comments. I know a few people are interested in getting this lens, and I'd like to know what you guys think. I'd probably prefer to go for a 35 and the 55 for me personally. But let me know how you feel about this lens, whether it really interests you. Obviously, being the Batis, I love my Batis lens. I do think it's gorgeous, the 85. So again, this probably would be a lovely lens to use. The design is really nice on these lenses. They do look amazingly good on the camera as well, by the way. And also the quality is really nice. I think comparing them, the 85 1.8 and the Batis are extremely close in quality. But I think the Batis... From when I've used both, I think the Batis just has a slight edge in pop, which is that Zeiss pop that you hear about. And I do think that exists. And that's just a thing that I do think is there, that colour pop that you get by using the Batis. So the Batis 40mm may be an interesting lens if you're sort of in that mix of you don't want to use 35 or you don't want to use a 50. The 40 may be a really nice lens for you. But I'd be interested to know in the chat what you guys think about that, because, you know, is that something that you'd love to try? Let me know there what you think. I don't think it's mentioned pricing yet. No, because it's still just rumoured yet. Now, the other camera that they're talking about coming out is, well, there's rumours it could be the A6700, or it could also be the A7S III. I think it probably will be the A7S III that will come out next. That's just what I believe is probably going to happen. I still think it's going to be Photokino that's going to come out in. You know, in this August, sort of September period, it may be announced. But I don't think an A6700 will come out reasonably soon, because they're still trying to sell the A7S, the A7 III. And I can't picture them selling an A6-700 and an A7S III at the same time, because these two cameras could take sales away from one another. There's no way I think they would release an amazing A6-700 and then release an A7S III at the same time, because I think they would just basically take their sales away. So I think they're only going to announce one. And my feeling is still that it's probably going to be the A7S III. And that's probably the camera that I will get. What I might be torn with, though, is, to be honest, I've been so amazed with the A7 III video and also the A9 video that really that's probably got as good low light as I would ever need to shoot, not being a full-on videographer. But the thing I do miss is 4K 60p. And that's why I'm just wondering about, hopefully, obviously the A7S III will have that, but it would be interesting to see if they bring out an A6-700 with 4K 60p. And I'd be really happy if that was just 5 minutes. That's enough for me, clearly, to run 4K 60p, because by the time I shoot at that and then slow it down, it's easily enough. Most of my shooting that I do is 12 seconds. So that's what you've got to remember, that most of my shooting is 12 seconds that I'm taking with clips. So having these time limits, like even the RX100 Mark V, where people say 5 minutes is a problem that it records, it's not for me, because I'm very rarely recording 4K for longer than, 12 seconds. So, usually if I'm going to do anything longer than that, I'm shooting 1080p. So if they release, say, an A6-700 with 4K 60p and a flip-out screen, I probably would buy that, because I'm happy with the quality of the low light with the A7S, the A7 III and the A9. I think that's easily enough low light for me. I don't really shoot I very rarely ever go over 6400. Really, 3200 usually is about my maximum. And if I'm going above that, I'm adding lighting anyway. So I don't really probably need the low light that the A7S III would give me. But I would love to have that camera if it's, say, got much better focusing, if it's got, say, like the A9 focusing or the A7 III, and then it's got 4K 60, and it would be amazing. So it's going to be interesting to see what they release in these two cameras. Let me know what you think about that too in the chat. Would you definitely go for an A7S III, or would you jump to an A6-700? It's going to be particularly hard for me if they release an A6-700 with a fold-out screen and, say, 4K 60p that you can record for, say, 5 minutes. I'd be torn between getting that or a A7S III. So, yeah, it's a bit of a... I'm not sure which way to go on that one yet. Let me know in the chat what you feel about that. Okay, let's story 1945. Now, I just wanted to talk about this, that Adobe have added lens support profiles now in the latest update. They have added all of the lens support for the new Sigma lenses, like the 14 is there, the Sigma 20mm 1.4, the Sigma 24 1.4, Sigma 2470 is there, Sigma 35 1.4 is also there, Sigma 50 1.4, the Sigma 85 1.4, Sigma 135 is also in there, and the Tamron 28-75. So if you do have the Tamron now, you can use the lens profiles built into Lightroom. So they've also now been announced. So there are a lot more lens profiles announced, and that was fairly quick. The other thing too that I've noticed is that the camera profiles have been updated. There was color issues with the last profiles that Lightroom had. I know some people were talking in my photography and videography group. Please join that on Facebook if you haven't joined it. We were discussing that there, and there was people showing samples of the before Lightroom was updated and then after Lightroom was updated, and the profiles are much better now. So they're saying that it has been really improved if you're using the profiles that work with Sony cameras now in Lightroom, because there was color shifts happening before, whereas now they tend to be much closer to what the JPEGs were actually showing. So there has been a big improvement. So if you haven't updated Lightroom, make sure that you do update to get those latest profiles, and also these lens profiles as well. Like I said, now the Tamron's done, the 28-75. And obviously all of the other Sigma lenses that have been announced have now got lens profiles built in. So that's great if you want to apply those lens profiles on import. So yeah, just update away. So I just wanted to discuss that with you. Next story. I just wanted to talk about this just briefly because DP Review did put up a video just talking about the Tamron 28-75. Now, I think it was only for stills, though. I don't know why Jordan wasn't there to do video as part of that test. But his test, he was very, very happy with the lens. So I just wanted to share this here, and it sort of matched my experience when I was using that lens. So clearly there is a few versions of this lens. They obviously have a good one because the focusing was not an issue. And his test was quite good, saying that it was a good buy for the cost of the money that you had to put down, the $799 US. So I just wanted to sort of discuss that with you. I was mentioning to people that I still believe if you had an issue with that lens, and I was saying this to people, I think it was last week, that if you have an issue with that lens, I would return it. And that's, to be honest with everyone out there, I don't think I'll be waiting for a firmware upgrade because I'm not 100% certain that if you've got a problem with that and you have to unmount that lens and reconnect that lens, that's a firmware issue. It seems to me like it might be something to do with the contacts or something. Whether it's a manufacturing problem with the early batch or it was just one batch that's had that issue, I'm not sure. So to be honest, to be safe, I probably would return it. The only time I wouldn't return it is if you contact the supplier and they give you a guarantee in writing to say that they will allow you to return that lens if the firmware fix doesn't fix it. And because we still don't know when it was going to happen. Now, a few weeks ago, Tamron said 2 weeks, and we're still waiting, so it hasn't happened yet. So I still would think that if you have that lens, if you can't get a guarantee off your camera, whoever you purchased the lens from, and get that in writing, that if the firmware doesn't fix it, you can send it back for a replacement. Otherwise, I would honestly return that lens and wait for Tamron to release a new one that you know is going to work. That's why I'm curious about the people just getting their deliveries now, to let me know and let you guys know in the comments down below whether the Tamron has had any of these issues at all with focusing. Because I can tell you, when I got the lens I had, that lens was easily as good as anything that I'd had with Sony. The focusing was insane. And I was so wrapped in it. Like I said, I asked them if I could buy it, but they wouldn't let me because they're in such short supply. They needed to give that lens to other reviewers. But I think they even took it to camera shops where it was being used for testing and stuff because they're so hard to come by at that point. But clearly, if you get a good one of these lenses, they're amazing. And like I said, my test focusing, and I put that on YouTube, was outstanding. It was easily as quick as anything I'd used apart from the 55, which is nuts. But it was easily as good as any other lens that I've ever used with Sony. So if you get a good one of those lenses, it's amazing. But if you have got a bad one, I'd be sending it back. So I just wanted to talk to you about that. But let us know in the comments below. Let us know also in the live chat now whether you think, if you've got one just recently, whether you've had any of those focus issues, because I'd love you to know about that as well. Make sure you put that at David Osler as well. Just by the way, with comments, just make sure if you're going to get my attention, put the at David Osler. It just brings it up to highlight to me so that I can see it when we go back to the questions. All right, next story. Because this is an interesting one, actually, the next one, which is 2540. Okay, next story is this. Now, this is a really important one, guys, and I wanted to talk to you about this because they're saying up here, the heading of this story is why you don't put a cheap ND filter on an expensive lens. Well, you shouldn't put any filter on a lens, to be honest, a cheap filter. Now, just to sort of discuss this as well, people ask me too if I use the clear protection filters, whatever they're called, on your, whatever they are, I can't remember, filters on your lenses. And I say, no, never. Now, the thing is, you are putting another piece of glass on top of this amazing lens that you've purchased. I honestly believe that will take away from the quality of the lens. And that's why I do not use those protective filters on lenses. Now, if you look at it, they're, what are they called? I can't remember, I've gone blank. But those filters were designed for film days, I believe, because it was designed to stop I think it was UV or something from entering the camera. There was a reason for it. If you Google it, you'll see that those protection filters were designed really for film cameras. They really don't do anything for digital cameras at all. And look, to be honest, yes, I don't even think they protect your lens, to be honest. And there's lots of reviews out there that discuss that about, do these lenses protect you when falling? And there's actually ones you can find out there that when you've, say, dropped the lens or whatever, bang the lens, sometimes that glass smashing has done the damage to the lens. And sometimes it even damages that filter, so you can't get the filter off. And there's no way you can get it off. And that's another issue. So I've never put those protection filters on my lenses, and I pay all this money for this gorgeous lens, and there's no way I'm going to degrade that at all by putting another piece of glass on top of that, a cheap, $50 piece of glass or whatever they are, in front of that. But you do have to use NDs, and particularly if you're doing things like slowing shutter speed down or doing things for video. So this is a lens, and I'm not going to go right through the whole thing, but this is a discussion about using cheap NDs and the difference that you can get in the way the image looks. And this is showing it with the filter. This is a cheap, CPL filter. This is a shoot without it. And then I think they're showing different ones with it and without it. The point here is that if you're going to use particularly NDs, buy good ones. And I think they're just talking about the protection filters here. I'm not sure. It may be. But I've found also the same thing too with NDs. If you use cheap NDs on your cameras, you also get things like funny color casts. They can do striping if you're using variable NDs and it looks worse. They all do give you that cross, but cheap ones will come up a lot sooner. So basically, I'll put this article down below though, so you can have a read about this. But if you are using cheap filters, particularly, get rid of them and put decent filters on. I don't recommend putting your normal, those protection filters on at all, but that's just me personally. But I never use them at all. I never use them at all. But if you are buying NDs, make sure you put decent quality NDs. And the next story was, I wanted to sort of discuss that too, because PolarPro I noticed, and I do recommend PolarPro. I love them. That's the one I use on all of my videos with the 55. That's a PolarPro I've got on there. And they are a fantastic ND. Great quality. Yes, they're more expensive, but you get what you pay for, particularly with things like NDs and stuff like that. But PolarPro I noticed, and I'm not sponsored by them, guys, at all. I just bought mine through B&H. And Amazon, you can get them. I've got a link, I think, below. If you check out my Amazon link, you'll see that in there. But the PolarPro filter, you can now do a trade-in. So they will buy back, and it gives you credit towards getting new filters. And like I said, to be honest, I've found the PolarPro filters to be the best ones that I've used personally. And I've used stacks of different ones that are out there. But I definitely have found that I do love the PolarPro ones. And like I said, I'm not sponsored by them at all. It's basically just something that, I do. Look, to be completely honest, if I'm going to be sponsored by anyone, I'm going to tell you. I have been contacted by a backdrop company that want to sponsor me to have backdrops, and I've said yes, because I use backdrops all the time when I'm doing my studio shoots and stuff like that, and it's not a big deal for me to put a backdrop on, and I do use the same backdrops from that company all the time anyway. So I'm probably going to use them, and I just have to mention that I've used those backdrops when I do the shoots, and that's not a problem because I'm still using those. It's Cape backdrops. So they have asked me to basically be one of their YouTube reviewers, and I'm just going to do it. And like I said, I'm going to always be upfront and honest with you guys. So they've asked me to do that, and all I have to do for that review is to mention that the backdrop has been supplied by Cape Backdrops. And that's not an issue for me because, like I said to you, I would be using those backdrops anyway. So it's good for me because it's not financial. They're not giving me anything financial at all, but basically I can just choose the backdrops that I want to shoot with, and then they're going to send me those backdrops for free, and I can use them in my review, and all I have to say is that they've been supplied by Cape Backdrops, and that's all I basically have to say in the review. So basically it's a no-win. So it's not like I can really give a backdrop like that a bad review. If it didn't work for me, I would say that. But, all the backdrops I've had from them before have been fantastic, and I've been using them for a lot of my shoots before. So, yeah, that's great news anyway. But like I said to you guys, I'm always totally upfront with you. Never would lie. So definitely PolarPro, or no one. The Moser Air also has not sponsored me. None of those ones have, even though I rave about them. I've bought them out of my own money. But Cape Backdrops have said that they'd like to send me some backdrops, and I'm going to take that up. So let's go back to this news story. So PolarPro, I do recommend those ND filters. They're amazing. They are fantastic. They're expensive. I think the one that I had for my ND, though, was about $90, I think, US. That was for the 55 that I've got, that I adore and love it all the time. I don't think I've got it in here. No, it's in the other room, actually. But I really do like that, and I probably may end up getting all my NDs. I've used Hoya and other ones, but I think I may go to PolarPro on all of them that I use. All right, so let's go to the next story, which is 32:45. So the last story before we go to questions, I just wanted to talk to you about this because I noticed Instagram has just started doing video, and it's called IGTV, and I posted my first one yesterday, actually. I put a behind the scenes of shooting Kiara in the Royal Hotel. So I noticed I think you can record video up to an hour long on there. And any of you that are interested in doing video, particularly and sharing through Instagram, you may be interested in getting involved in this. Because I've found Instagram is just a fantastic service, and it gets me a fair bit of work, to be honest. It's actually this little dialer box here is where you click to get your Instagram videos, and you can upload videos, you can do other things. So it's probably something that I'm going to be sharing as well. By the way, guys, if you do want to share me on Instagram, please do, and I'll share you back. I always share back to people. And the stupid thing is about Instagram, though, you get people that ask you to share, and then a day later they drop you again. And I've got an app that I use on the phone, and it tells me, and I just basically dump them again straight away. It's actually the app that I use, and I'll just tell you in case if you want to try it, is called Followers. You'll see it. I'll just see if I can show you. And if you've got Android, you may be able to get something that's similar. It's probably overexposed. It's Followers there that I use. It's this little one. Now, that tells you if you've had any subscribers that have added you and then dropped you, and then you can just unfollow them. So the stupid ones that just follow you just to get you to like back, it's stupid, and I hate that. So I immediately check, and if they've done that, I just dump them again. So, but if you do want to add me on Instagram, I think I'm just Dioslo. It'll be in the links down below as part of my social media profile. Share that with me, like on Instagram, and I will share back to you. So it is always something that I do, and I don't just say I do that, I do it. The only ones I don't share back to are the ones that are on private, but any of the others I always share back. Now, talking about Instagram as well, I've found that I'm probably growing faster now in Instagram than I am in Facebook, and I'm getting more work, believe it or not, through Instagram than I am through Facebook. And I think the tide's shifting a little bit. It seems to be shifting a little bit away from Facebook, and it's going towards Instagram. And if you ask young people what they're using, a lot of them now aren't using Facebook that much at all. When we did the video with Kiara with me the other day, talking about how to get models, you'll notice that I asked her what social media she uses, and she said Instagram and Snapchat. So this is the interesting thing. With young kids particularly, it's shifting completely. My daughter, who is she does cosmetic injecting, she has her own business, which is very successful. I got her onto Instagram, and her business now is growing that much faster using Instagram than it was through Facebook. So I think if you're into photography particularly and you're trying to market yourself, guys, you may really want to be interested in using something like Instagram, or trying to share every day. I basically usually only share one image per day. on Instagram, and that now is starting to build, and I am getting contacts and things like that all through Instagram. So it's something that you have to do. What I'm saying to you is don't put all your eggs in the one basket, and I might do a video about this too, because eventually I'd like to get back to setting your business up and stuff, but I will talk about all this again in more detail about Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and other social networking out there as a separate video, but I just thought I'd mention that. So anyway, that now is available, so you can now start shooting these videos through Instagram and sharing videos. Before it was quite hard to put that in, but now it's clearly moving on, and they're probably trying to really tackle something like YouTube perhaps, but it'll be interesting to see where it grows. All right, so let's open it up to questions, and then we'll see how we go from there. Let me just put the time on here, which is 37. So fire away all your questions, guys. Don't forget, anyone that's coming late, I have got a workshop, and I'll put that in the link down below in August, the end of August. So please join us there if you're in Melbourne. I'm going to plug that over the next few weeks, so you'll probably hear me talking about it a bit, but I will be plugging that over the coming weeks. So let's go over to questions, and I'm going to scroll back just to make sure I don't miss anything. All right, so most people just early on are just saying hi. Michael said he got his Tamron back from friends and works great. So Michael's saying he's got a good version of the Tamron. Sam has also said, got the Tamron, arrived today, woohoo. So I'm waiting on Sam also to say how the Tamron is going for him. What else have we got? I think Michael's there saying that he used... Oh, let's jump right to the bottom. I think Michael was saying that he's tried it on 3 different bodies and it's fine, so that's interesting. Barry's saying hi. Sam just saying it just came in the mail. I have not had a chance to try it out. I will let you know once I've been able to use it. Yeah, that's great, Sam. Let us know in the comments down below. Just let us know how it's been going for you. Ralph's just saying hi. Johnny's also coming late and saying hi. Rui's here as well. David the Toaster, glad to see you online, mate. Thanks so much, mate, for watching us. Mick said, first-time Flash user, purchases the smaller Godox TT350S, 2.5 TTL HSS, and Flash for the Sony a6 300. TTL for now, until my knowledge gets better. Yeah, and that's fantastic, Mick. Join us in the workshop, Mick. Tony said, how about those Socceroos? I know, how good did the Socceroos go? I watched it last night. I stayed up last night. The Australian Socceroos drew 1-1 with Denmark and played fantastic. Yeah, great work, boys. Cinque Media said, Sigma 18 to 135, 1.8 APS-C works pretty well in full frame mode. Yeah, thanks for letting me know. The reason why that question has come up is because I'm going to try... just for the people coming late, I'm going to try next week how this works on the A67S3. Sorry, the A7 III. It's obviously the 8. Is it going to focus? Focus. Oh, there we go. I was a bit close. 18 to 105. F4 lens. I'm dying to try this to see how it goes on video. Again, remember, this is a full-on video lens, so it's going to be good to see how it actually works. Constant F4 too, by the way, so I think this is a really underrated lens. I took this to New Zealand on the A6500 and shot a video on it. You'll go back, you'll find it, and it's stunning results. And also I'm going to try this, the 10 to 18 as well. F4, constant F4, I adore this little lens. So I'm going to use this as well to get some environmental stuff in the coming week. And I may also take the 24 1.8 as well. I'm dying to try it with video just to see how it goes. So let me know if you'd be interested in how that works. Tom's saying hi. JD said, are you using the EOS HD color profile? No, I'm not. I purchased it, JD, but honestly, I'm happy with the lens color the way it is. Everyone has talked to me about how the videos that I've done of Kiara particularly look stunning. That's the standard profile, no settings changed or anything, and it really is been fantastic. Craig from Wedding Film School also shoots standard profile as well. So I honestly think the standard profile is fantastic. It's just what people like, I suppose. I did buy that when it first came out, but I've never used it. Vilnius says, hi. SMD Vision said, good evening. Really appreciate it too, guys. If you could give me a thumbs up too, I really would appreciate that. There's 90 odd watching and we've got 27 likes. So I appreciate if you could give me a thumbs up. Mark said, hi, hey guys, if you had to choose between the 90mm versus the 70-200 f4 for portraits, which would you take? The 70-200, definitely. No doubt about it. I'd take that lens easily. I'd take it for the much more reach, much more compression. By far, there's nothing wrong with a 90mm, but you're standard there and stuck at the 90mm. I'd prefer an 85 to that focal length, the 1.8, if I'm going to get that, or the 1.4, the 85. Therefore, if I was going to do that, if I was choosing between those two lenses, I'd have much more use out of the 70-200 f4 than the 90mm. CG Vlog said, g'day, David. So g'day to you. Jay said, 200, oh man, I may fly to Venezuela. You're in Venezuela right now. Yeah, I'd love to go to Venezuela. That'd be cool. Mark, that's $200 for the workshop. Yeah, I think it's cheap. And like I said, I'm giving half to Kiara. No, so she's going to get half of what I earn. JD said, 70-200 f4 is more versatile. Yeah, it is. It's way more versatile. I'd definitely be getting the 70-200. f4, if you're dealing with shooting at 200mm, is perfect. You don't need 2.8 if you're dealing with that much compression. The background is all blown away anyway, trust me. You only need that 2.8 if you're dealing with low light. That's the only reason why I would ever think about getting the G Master, to be honest, is because I do dancing recitals, and that's a big part of my work, dance concerts and stuff like that. Sometimes I do wish that I had the 70-200 2.8 G Master for that type of work. So that's one area where I would like to have the G Master. But for my outdoor work, the 70-200 f4 is ample. What else? Now, Jay, if you want to fly me to Venezuela, I'll come over, no problem at all. SMD Vision said, the 92.8, you get better bokeh unless you want more compression. Yeah, exactly. But like I said, if you're dealing with 200mm, the compression on that, the bokeh is amazing with that lens. Mark said, thanks for your insights, no problem. Hi, Jeffrey, how are you? Hi, David. Sony becoming like Nikon, compulsion over lens and mount compatibility. I hope this doesn't get any worse. Confusion. Are you talking about all these lens mount things? Well, really, it's not that bad, Jeff, really. I mean, you can use any of the lenses on there. Just bought the A7 III for video purpose mainly and ordered the FE Sigma 24 1.4, and now I'm looking at it for a 30-50mm lens, but I'm a lower budget for it. Any recommendations? Well, the 35 Samyangs are pretty good. Look, if you're dealing with video, though, I have to be honest, Carews. Look, I honestly would only use Sony, and I'm being honest with you. At this stage, the Sony are by far the best you can use if you're talking about video focusing. They will work quicker. The other thing, too, is a lot of the other lenses can be a little bit noisy. And look, fantastic for stills. I just can't recommend them for video. And I'm just being honest with you. I would save and get Sony lenses. I'd buy, if you're stuck for money, I'd save and buy the 35 2.8. That's what I'd be getting, the Sony version of that. That's if you were doing it for video. If you was talking about stills, it's not an issue. I'd be saying you could easily go for Samyang or Sigma, whatever you wanted to get. But if you're talking about video, definitely go for Sony lenses. Michael, Sony told them to do it. Not sure what that was. Altrix said, Samyang are great lenses. I update the firmware on my 35 and it is quick focus. Well, there you go. So Altrix happy with his Samyang. SND Vision said, where do you get the docking station? Yeah, I think you've got trouble in the US getting that docking station, haven't you? You've got to send it back. I know you can get that here. Little Blue, I said, I may be interested in the Samyang, depends on performance. Yeah, and we're all waiting on that. You're talking about the new 85, or we'll have to wait and see. I have the Sony 85 1.8 very sharp on my A7 III. That's an amazing lens, Johnny. That Sony FE 1.8 is an amazing lens. If I didn't have the Batis, I'd buy that one tomorrow. SMD Vision said, little blue eye check. 79 on IG. He uses Samyang 35. See the results. Oh, that's just talking about some lens results. Trev said, the Sigma 85 1.4 art is my favourite 85. I've shot with it to date. I've used it. I used to be the Canon 85 1.2. Yeah, and I can tell you the Sigma 85 was great when I used to shoot it with Nikon as well. There was nothing wrong with that lens at all. What else have we got? Bokeh Master, is that talking about the 105? Yeah, I can't wait to try that Sigma 105. Trevor said, talking about that 105, it's massive. When I look at it, I can't help but think they're trying to compete with something like the Nikkor 200 F2, which was renowned for its bokeh. This lens should have extraordinary bokeh, and that's why I'm really interested to try it too. Trev said, oh, okay, so the 105 is going to be 1.5. Okay, well, thanks, Trev, for saying that. Michael said, I use the 105 at NAB. It's a beast, and it feels like a bag of bricks. I love it. What did you think of it, Michael, though? Did you actually test the bokeh on it? I'd be curious to know what you thought about that. Was it really that heavy? That may put me off. I don't know. S&D Vision said they should have made it the same size as the Nikkor 105. Yeah, it's interesting why they went that big. But then again, it might be worth it depending on the bokeh that you can get out of that. I really like the 135 Batis, but the price. I like the Batis too, but the 2.8 puts me off a little bit. I would like a 1.8, 135 if I was going to get one. It is nice and light, the Batis though, so that is one plus for the Batis. I think you might find once these other ones become common, well, they've already dropped the price of the Batis now, haven't they? So you might find that the Batis lens drops down in price. Let's hope. I was tempted to get the Batis, I have to be honest with you, but I thought at the time when that was released, the Batis at the 2.8 put me off, the cost of that lens put me off, because I was thinking that I really thought Sony would have had a 135 1.8 by now, so that's the reason why I never purchased the Batis. Sigma have different optical design philosophy than Nikon. Their lenses will never look alike. Yeah, that's true. Let's have a look. What else are people saying? SMD Vision said, I enjoyed the Nikkor 105 1.4. I don't think I would like the Nikon. It looks too heavy. Yeah, and I do think it's going to be a specialist lens that you would grab out occasionally, but it might give you a point of difference, guys. That's why I want to try it. I'm dying to try the 135 and the 105 against each other and see how much difference there is. Trevor said, you'll never pry my GH5 out of my hands. Having access to 4K 10-bit, 422 and 4K 60p for video is such a game changer. And you're right, Trev. I love my GH5 too, but to be honest, I did buy that for the 4K 60p, but I was having issues shooting two different brands when I'm doing Fusion. I was getting confused all the time, and it's hard when you're doing things very, very quick and you have to do things without thinking. It's very hard if you're using two totally different systems. And that's the reason why I sold my GH5 and went back to Sony. And that's probably why I'll get the A7S III when it's announced. But it was hard. But I did love the GH5. Yes, I did love that camera. It's a fantastic little camera. Michael's going to eat more Wheaties to carry that 105. A7S III for sure. Jeffrey said, I'm so looking forward to you testing that Sigma 105. Yeah, I can't wait to test it as well. SMD Vision said, I think I would be happy with the Sigma 135. At least you would get compression and the bokeh. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, won't it? How the two lenses compared. Alan said it's 16 degrees C. That's 60 Fahrenheit. I was saying how cold it is here today. That's what we are. Dominic said, you don't really need the A7S III or A6 700. I think I'm good with the A7 III until eventually the A7R 1V comes out. Yep. That's what I discussed with you guys before, that I do honestly think that, what was I talking about then? Oh yeah, I want 4K 60p. That's the only thing really that I want now from Sony. Because honestly, the A7 III is unbelievable. The A9 is unbelievable in low light. And like I said, I can easily shoot up to 6400 in receptions and things like that with the camera that I've got. The only reason why you would want more ISO, honestly, than what these cameras give you now, is if you were basically shooting in the dark. That's the only reason why you would need something like that. Now remember, Max Urov has proven this, that the A7 III was beating the A7S II until you went up to something like 12,000 ISO. So clearly, these new cameras, the ISO is unbelievable. For a wedding photographer, for a wedding videographer, the A7 III and the A9 are all you would ever need. Unless, because like I said, you will add lighting. But what you do need, and I really would love it, is 4K 60p. That isn't going to become the standard in the future. And it also gives you the ability to slow down that 4K footage, to shoot at 60p and then slow down 50% to get lovely footage in 4K. And that's what I can't give at the moment. So that is a problem that Sony still haven't really fixed yet. So that's what probably the A7S III is going to announce. Now, I'm not sure what the A6700 could give us, and this is what's going to be interesting about that, because if the camera is close to what the A7 III is, you would just buy the A7 III, I believe. So they're going to have to give us a point of difference with the A6700, and that could be something like an articulating screen, because remember, at the moment, you've got nothing for that vlogging that will give you an articulating screen unless you use the RX100s. But the RX100s don't have an inbuilt microphone. So that, again, is a problem. So that could be the point of difference that they give us with this, that the A6700 may be targeted at vloggers that give you this short burst of 4K 60p, a flippable screen that would stop you just upgrading to the A7 III. Anyway, let me know what you think about what I've just said there in the comments. So it's certainly an interesting scenario, which way they're going to go, and I'm not sure at the moment. The problem for Sony is the A7 III is so good. That's the problem for Sony at the moment. So they really have to make the A6700 interesting to make people just buy that camera rather than jumping up to an A7 III. So it's going to be really interesting what they do there. So we got Danny Gate. Jay said, Preston said, hey David, g'day Preston. Dominic, UV filters. I went blank, and I honestly did not recommend UV filters. Jay said they saved them, but I've also heard of them damaging the lens too, Jay. But to be honest, my lenses are insured, so I don't care. You should have lenses. If you're carrying a 2470G lens around, an expensive lens like that, it should be insured. And then just insure it, and then you wouldn't have to put in a UV filter. The problem is, Jay, and you may not agree with me, UV filters will take away quality from your lens. They will. I'm telling you, you've got this unbelievably expensive lens, and then you're sticking this cheap glass in front of it. I just don't recommend it. Trevor said, for video, some of the cheaper filters are fine. I've done side-by-side comparison of 50, 90, 150 and 200 filters on the A7R, and the difference was minimal. I've checked it, Trevor, and I've seen the difference. I made a mistake recently of putting a cheaper one on, and it affected the color cast. And I was so sorry I never used the PolarPro. So I have seen a difference. I think if you're paying for money, if you're doing it as hobby, not an issue. If you're doing it and you're being paid to do it, you should use expensive NDs. Johnny said, I don't use NV filters anymore. Yeah, I don't use them at all. A badly manufactured filters is a badly manufactured filter regardless of the price. Brick wall backdrops. He's talking about Kate backdrops. Katie's backdrops, yes. I mentioned before that they're going to send me some backdrops, or I can just choose which ones I want. It's going to be great for some of my studio shoots. Can't wait. Cora said, anyone recommend budget low filter? I've said that I'd go for the 35 Sony 2.8 for video. It's still not cheap though, but that's the one I'd be recommending. Michael said he only uses Helipan 100% great UV and ND polarizing filters. Haven't used Helipan actually, Michael. Where are we? Oh, now before I forget, let me just jump to this because I'm dying to show you this that came up today from Moser Air because I'm not sure what other brands out there have it. Let me just download my thing. It'll take me a minute to bring this up. Where are we? Because this is so cool. Let me switch to this. Because I noticed that Moser, if you have got Moser, you might be interested in looking at this. They've released new firmware today, I believe. But it's got these new updates, which is called Inception Mode and Sports Gear Mode as part of... I haven't updated my gimbal yet. But you watch what this does. It's fantastic. I've seen this before in some other really high-priced gimbals. But you watch what he does now. It'll actually turn the gimbal around completely using the joystick. So you can get these effects now when you're walking. And they've called it Inception Mode, which looks fantastic. I can't wait to try this. And they've got this new sports mode that's come up that it will just whip when you turn the camera around. You can see there that it's designed to go really fast. And these are just new button presses that you can now press on your gimbal. So I'm dying to try it. But yeah, it's called Inception Mode and Sports Gear Mode. And it's just been announced. How cool is that? I can't wait to upgrade my gimbal. I've wanted to show you that because I forgot about it. What else have we got? Johnny said new ND filters. Well, those ones, Johnny, the PolarPros. If you go onto my Amazon links, you'll see that I've got a PolarPro recommended in there. That's for the 55, but you could get any of the other size filters too. I love PolarPro. And like I said, I'm not sponsored by them. I just find them fantastic filters. Just check the links below. After this has been finished, I'll post those links. What else have we got? I need to buy new... I just went through that. IG is fighting against YouTube. Yeah, I think they are. So it's interesting. Facebook versus Google war. Yeah, probably. Facebook is dying. It's certainly dying with kids, Kevin. I agree. Kids just aren't using it anymore. They'll still have it, but they don't use it like they do with Instagram and Snapchat. So if you're targeting the kids area or teenagers growing up, most teenagers are definitely using Instagram and Snapchat. Yes, I have got Instagram, and I'll put that down below in the comments when we're finished. So if you like me, like me there, and I'll share it back. I will put that in the links. It'll be the social media links right down the bottom of the click the numbers down below. Once we finish this, we can look at that. OCG said follow you. Well, you'll get a follow back once we've finished. Dominic said, I just hope Instagram videos will be viewable on PC. Yeah, I wonder. Corey said recommendations for a 35 to 50 for the A7 III. I'm on a lower budget. I've mentioned that before. I would recommend the 35 2.8 Sony one if you're doing it for video. If you're not doing it for video, you can go for the Samyang ones. They're fantastic. I just clicked the button on Insta for David. That's Jose. Yeah, thanks, mate. I'll follow you back. It is Diosler. Yeah, that's my Instagram name there. If you want to follow me, it's at Diosler. So if you do follow me there, guys, I'll follow you straight back. Thanks. I followed some other guy named David Osler by accident. Oh, is there another one on there? It's not me, is it? No, it's probably someone pinched my name. Mongrel. Okay, if you can't afford a 70 to 200 lens, but you want some reach for wedding photos, what 3 Sony lenses or third-party lenses would you recommend? Well, I can only tell you which ones I use. I use the 35 Sony, and again, though, these aren't cheap lenses, but you could use the Samyang one if you wanted to. Don't worry about the minus Sony, but I'll tell you the lenses I use. I use the Sony 35 1.4, and I use the 85 Batis, and you could get the Sony 85 1.8. They're the 2 lenses that I use. You will need a wider lens than that, though, so you're going to need something that's in the wider range. I use the 16 to 35 f4. I also do use that one, though, too, the Sony 10 to 18. I use that as well for my videos. You get about 12mm on the full frame. So I use that as well. So you are going to need a wide angle, but they're the three lenses I'd say. The two you definitely need is a 35 and an 85, and you'll need a wide angle. And if you're just doing stills, you could like I said, you could get Samyang, Sigma, whatever you wanted to get. You don't have to get the Sony versions, but they're the lens that I use. The 18 to 105 f4, how's it for photography? It is a crop sensor, yes. I'll get about 11 megapixel on there. If I use it on my A7R II, I get about an 18 megapixel. It works fantastic, actually. In crop on the A7R III, you get a really nice result. But I want to try it for video, so I'm going to use it for video just to see how they look on the full frame cameras coming up. It's a really underrated lens. It's actually really good. Check out the Samyang 35 2.8. It's at a decent price. I use it at 1.4, found it pretty good, yep. The Rowan S should be in by next week. I tried it at NAB, as well as the Sigma 105 gimbals. Heavy, but super nice. Yeah, everyone's raving about that Rowan S. The thing for me, Michael, it's too heavy. Look, honestly, if I was shooting video alone, that's probably the gimbal I would buy, because it does seem to be a fantastic gimbal. Everything I've seen about it is good. I'd love to get one to hire and try. But for me, shooting Fusion, where I'm shooting video and stills at the same time, I need a really light gimbal. I've just ordered the Crane M, because I want to use the Crane M for my RX100. So I have just ordered the Crane M off Amazon. It's going to be here, I think, early July. So I'll let you know how that goes with that. And I wanted something really light that I could use for a gimbal, and that is designed for those really small cameras. So I'm going to use the Crane M for the RX100, and I'm still going to be using the Moza Aircross. I found that's just an amazing gimbal for what I'm doing with my Sony cameras for doing fusion type work. Like I said to you, if I was doing video alone, I probably would get the Rowan, that Rowan S, which does look like it's going to be an incredible gimbal, but just too heavy for what I want to use it for. Gene said, missed the initial part, just got home, David. Did we get a firmware update on the Tamron? No, not yet. We're still waiting, and I did talk about that. I think if you're still waiting on that, you may want to return it if you're within that returning time, and then get another lens when they release it. If you've got an issue with the focus, if you haven't, keep it. Thanks for the feedback, no worries. Kevin said, any recommendations on a great travel tripod besides a man-free beef-free event? No, if you go back, I've posted that beef-free one, which I'll just get it for you. I'll tell you the one I love. I think it's that one. This is the only one that I recommend that is the Mi Photo. Now, I have done a review on this. This is the carbon fiber one. I just love it, you know, because it's just so tiny. Like when you actually bring this up here and then go like this, it's just such a tiny little tripod, you know, and it goes quite high. Like it's just fantastic. I got this one. It's not the smallest one. This is the medium-sized one, but I really do like it. And I bought the carbon fiber one because if you're dealing with working in the cold, particularly, like I do a snow shoot. We go up to the mountains actually late next month because we don't get snow here, but we do in the mountains. I love this, and I think it's fantastic. So this is really the only ones that I recommend, and I really do adore it. And I've had this now for a couple of years, and I did do a whole review on this. If you scroll back through my video, you'll find the reviews. But this is the one that I love. Fantastic. You know, you've even got your bubble so you can check your level up here. Let me see if I can get it to focus. Had an awful lot of use, and it's never, ever let me down. This is Arca Swiss. That's what I use all the time, is the Arca Swiss anyway. But I love it. I wonder if I'm a bit hot on there. Not sure. Yeah, I don't know. Let me go back to questions. So that's the tripod that I recommend anyway. A fantastic travel tripod. Jean said, I got my docking station for the Rocking On through Castle Cameras UK. Yeah, I think you can get it in the UK. You can get it here. I think the US is a problem though, Jean. I don't think they can get them over there. I think it's got to be sent back to the manufacturer to actually get the firmware updated. Johnny said, I have the 70-200 f4L. Should I use the adapter or buy the 70-200? Well, if I was you, I adore the 70-200 f4, the Sony version. I mean, if you can, sell it and buy that one. I love it. I love that to death. I'd never get rid of that lens. Michael said, David, nice brown sweater. Where's the beer? Is that brick pattern on your chair? It's not a brick pattern, actually. It's a cool chair, though, this one. I love this chair. I know beer, it's too cold for a beer. I will have beer o'clock with you guys in spring once it warms up a bit. Shakus said, will the Canon 24-7 II work well on the A7 III? Yes, it will, but not for video. If you're dealing with video, you need to get native lenses. The adapted lenses just don't work very well. So if you are dealing with video, you need to think about getting a native lens. It depends on what you're doing. If you're dealing with stills, no problem at all. Andrew said, I'm using the Sigma 135 Canon lens with the MC11. Should I get the Sony? Yes, I would, if you've got the money to do it, particularly if you're doing video, Andrew. If you're doing stills, you might just be happy with it and it might be good enough. But if you can get enough back for it and you're definitely staying in the Sony system, it could be a good thing to do. Michael said, NAB really isn't the place to test the bokeh on the 105 Sigma, but I did get a feel for it. It's kind of like the 105 Nikkor, very nice, yep. Chris said, what are your feelings about buying an A9 used off eBay? Anything I should be careful of? The prices are real good. Well, I'm always nervous about buying anything off eBay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't tend to buy, to be honest, I don't buy any used gear like cameras or anything like that off eBay. I just think there's too many shoddy people out there. I like to see the camera in person. So I wouldn't do it, but that's me personally, because you just can't tell. In theory, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure what to say to you because I just don't do it. So if it was me, Chris, I wouldn't buy it unless I could physically look at the camera. But that's just me. I'm very safe, and I would never buy any used gear unless I physically touch it, and then I'd pay over the money. There's just so much I've heard about people having issues with having to send stuff back and then claiming, people didn't claim they got money and all things. I just don't know if I'd do it. Someone else in the chat or even down below may be able to recommend something there. I just wouldn't do it because you can't check the camera. Like everything I could say, like check, how wear and tear is, things like that. You just can't check unless you can actually feel it and see it and try it in your hand. Like, check the focus, everything else with it. Check the shutter sound. There's all things that you can't check unless you can do it. You're dealing with big money, and I just don't know if I'd do it off eBay. But let us know down below, or even if we can in the live chat, what you think. What else have we got? Little Ray Blue said, I used to have the EOS HD on my A6500, but I'm not using it on my A7 III. Mario, any news about the Aussie happy photographer? Not yet, but he probably will make a return one day. Talking about that, it's interesting how Ken has sort of backtracked now from the Sony business with the D850, isn't it? He was originally saying that was definitely done by Tower Jazz, and now it appears like it's definitely a Sony sensor in there. Now, clearly it's designed by Nikon, but Sony have manufactured it. It just proves that Sony are the best at manufacturing sensors, because that Nikon D850 sensor is an amazing sensor, but he now is sort of ignoring questions and stuff on that. Originally, he was saying it was definitely Tower Jazz. I think he got that one wrong, didn't he? But the Aussie happy photographer will pop back eventually. He's just waiting for the right moment, I think. Johnny Sensor said, thanks for the feedback on ND Filter, David. No worries, Johnny. Michael said, David, did you call him a mongrel? That's my new favourite word to call someone. Who said, "Did I call Ken a mongrel?" I don't know. We do use that word. We love that word mongrel, though. Yeah, it's funny. Tony Pia said, "I have the M photo that David has, Kevin, and it's nice. It's a great. I know. I love that tripod. Like I said, I've used that for all my travels. Used it to death, and it's never let me down. Fantastic. I do recommend though getting the carbon fiber one though, because it is much lighter, and plus if you're dealing in cold environments, it's so much better to be using a carbon fiber tripod. Also, it stops vibrations as well. The carbon fiber doesn't transfer vibrations like the metal ones do, so it is an interesting thing if you're doing long exposure and stuff like that. What else? Johnny said, "Thanks for the advice on the 70-200 f4 lens. No worries at all." So do you have any last questions, guys, before I finish off today? I will be posting some other videos, so stay tuned for that. Like I said, if you do want to do a workshop, please join my workshop that we're going to do with Kiara. That's going to be so much fun. I will plug that over the coming weeks. Apart from that, we've been going 1 hour, 11 minutes, so that might be enough. Any other questions, please leave those down below. I will answer them. I always answer my questions. I hate YouTubers that don't answer the questions. So please leave those down below as well. Mario said, do a friendly duel with Ken. He would do it. The Aussie and the original chatting with bananas. That would be funny, wouldn't it? If Ken would do that. I'd love that. Thanks for all the Me Photo recommendations. No problem at all. That's all. All right, guys. All the US and European viewers, enjoy your night. It's the afternoon for me. I might actually go out for a walk, seeing it's such a lovely day out there. Nice and sunny. Beautiful day. All right, guys. Cheers. And I'll see you all soon for the next video. Bye for now.